Today's episode is brought to you by Autodesk Sketchbook. Do you like to draw, doodle, or capture your ideas visually, but never have a pencil and paper with you when inspiration strikes? Sketchbook is the app you've been looking for. You can capture a quick sketch or build up a high-quality render from your phone, tablet, or computer. Sketchbook is easy to use, free to download, and the desktop version comes with a 15-day free trial, no credit card required. Head to sketchbook.com/tested. Again, that's sketchbook.com/tested to download for iOS, Android, Windows, or Mac. And if you like it, remember to use the promo code TESTED when you check out for 25% off an annual membership. That's sketchbook.com/tested to get started right now. And now, on with the show.
Hey, let's start the show.
It's October 8th, 2015. Welcome to This Is Only Tested, the official podcast of Tested.com. Right.
I think you're having way too much fun there.
Look at that fucking squirrel on my bird feeder. Short timer, man. I gotta abuse this while I still have it.
And then suddenly, the Enterprise D's bridge.
I'm Will Smith, short timer. Sitting directly to my left is not Norman Chan, it's Patrick Norton. How you doing, Patrick Norton?
I'm taking my safety goggles off, my safety glasses off.
You saw what Norm did to that BB-8, right?
No.
Well, look, there's a BB-8 right there. He made it naked. You can see what it looks like on the inside.
You know, my son's getting one of these for his birthday in about a week and a half, so I'm tempted to take a picture and tempted to not, lest he be all upset and or start peeling the surface off.
Well, so Norm had to cut that open. Norm and an R2 builder, a friend of ours, cut that open to see how they did on the inside. And then he just happened to have a clear ball that was the right size. How you doing, sir?
You know, outside of being completely distracted by the shiny object in front of me.
Yeah.
Hey, I can get a picture of you over here. Oh, wait.
This is great radio.
Nothing says radio.
Like taking a picture. I'm going to take some
With
selfies here.
Silence. I'm good, man. It's been
a few weeks.
Been a few weeks. Doing tech thing, you know.
That's TEKTHING.com.
Yes. Patreon.com/tech thing is you know, Patreon feeds us, right?
It turns out.
And Patreon got hacked, so that was very exciting.
Oh, I forgot about how'd that go?
Frightening.
Okay.
You know, we'll we talked about it on this week's show, so you know, you may see me working at Costco or wherever else I can get a job in a couple weeks. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. It's unfortunate, right? Because I also recorded an episode of Threatwire this morning, so I'm very and was talking about VPN security. So I'm a little amped on the whole security thing.
Yeah.
And it's Cyber Security Awareness Month. It's wonderful.
That's not a real thing.
No.
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 October is Chocolate Lovers Month, where I come from.
Well, you have to be careful because a lot of those days or months are actually copyrighted by this couple somewhere. I assume in the Midwest, because that
really,
would be, and if you mention them on like broadcast, you either have to have their permission or like pay them a fee. But DHF.gov, hold on, the internet is slowing down.
Wow, I'm looking at a list of the months that October is. It's National Pitbull Awareness Month, Eczema Awareness Month, Alzheimer's Awareness, Black History Month in the UK, Lupus Awareness Month, National Bullying Prevention Month, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. You're right. It's a real thing.
Yeah. DHS.gov/national-cyber/security-awareness-month. You have been selected to participate in a brief survey about your experience today with DHS.gov. Yes, I'll give feedback.
Oh, no. No. Don't give feedback on the podcast.
No, it'll be great. Well, it's funny. So, this is a thing.
Yeah.
We now live in a world that is more connected than ever before. The internet touches almost all aspects of everyone's daily life, whether we realize it or not.
Oh, dear Lord.
Well, there's like, it's funny because I was kind of mocking it this morning on one hand because it's an excuse for a lot of organizations that don't normally talk about, security.
Like the Today Show?
Perfect example. Or, the Better Business Bureau on a AM radio station, in Poughkeepsie or something, reminding people that, they should,
What do you even tell people? It's not like you update your virus definitions. You just tell them to stop using the internet if they don't know what to do.
Well,
look, it's bad out there, people.
It is, right? But it's also, it's bad out there on one hand, because the other thing it was today was the 1 year anniversary of the Sony breach. where Sony
right.
just got schwacked.
The email stuff.
Schwacked.
Schwacked is a technical term.
A very technical term. I can use technical terms on this podcast, like cornholed.
Yeah, you
fucked.
Yeah. We use all the words.
And I don't know if I've ever cursed on this podcast.
I feel like you
before.
might have dropped a couple of F-bombs on Oktobercast at 3 a.m. morning.
But
Right.
that's
Fuck me, fuck, fuck,
Oktobercast
fuck.
at 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's true.
So now that I've alienated a large portion of my audience, assuming any of them even showed up, I hope you did. Hi.
Hi.
But it's really interesting, great, because on one hand, you look at Sony, and it's like, okay, a nation state was pissed off at Sony and the impending release of the movie The Interview.
Did you air quote nation state?
No, because
Okay.
I don't particularly want to be the next target of that nation state. Like, there's a certain
So that's
amount
the
of
official policy, Patrick Norton, not tested.com. We love you, North Korea.
it's
not true.
I don't want to go there because then I'll just completely derail the entire podcast. Not that ever happens.
But that
without my help.
that Sony hack was a huge deal. Like
was a huge
we work
deal.
with people who have we have an LA office, and we know people who were at Sony at the time.
Yeah.
And they basically burned their entire IT infrastructure to the ground and had to
Yes.
start from the ground up because they were worried that there was firmware of hard drives was hacked potentially.
Yeah.
Like all the way down
Yeah.
to the firmware of the machines and the components of the machines. They were worried was hacked. So they literally were working on paper for a few days and then sent interns out to Best Buy with company credit cards and just bought all new computers off shelves.
Yeah, like because you literally would have to go to like a random sampling like that. But on one hand, you can be like, well, if a nation state targets your computer infrastructure, you're probably doing stuff. It's like the NSA, right?
Yeah.
Not only can they do terrible things, but they can send you a letter and tell you you can't talk about them or we'll burn your
Right.
infrastructure to the ground outside of the U.S. But the
Or at borders.
Oh my goodness, let's not even go there. We'll really go on a tangent. But I bring all of this up, right? Because, one of the best things I heard was from an Australian security professional around the OPM attacks, the Office of Personnel Management, where he pointed out that stop talking about whether or not it was China. Because whether or not it was China, there were huge numbers of things that were not implemented properly, that were not maintained, where it was sloppy, it was messy. It's bad IT.
I mean, but part of the problem is that on any kind of a system of massive complexity where there's a big chain of connections,
Yes.
whoever's going to attack you isn't going to go for the strong parts of those
No.
chains. They're going to go for the weakest parts of the chain, and they happen to realize that OPM was the weak part of the chain.
The OPM may have been the weak part of the chain, but at some point you got to look around and go, wow, the gate's unlocked and insert name of whoever's attacking
Right.
you is coming, since I don't want to particularly insult.
Well, but it
anyone
could have been
else.
federal. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're talking about the federal government,
Right.
I assume, knowing what I know of working, I worked for the state government for a while, which is 2 or 3 tiers down from the federal government. But the hiring process, and like they were always 5 or 10 years behind,
Right.
and that was in 1993. So like they were operating as if there was no internet when I was there, basically.
Well, there practically was no internet in 1993.
Fair enough. I was there in 98, so it was 88. There were people were using email. We had those really long email addresses back in 1988.
Lotus. I'm having flashbacks to Lotus Notes at Ziff Davis.
Oh, that was my first job. I was a Domino admin / help desk worker. So I maintained the Lotus Notes server. Think about that for a minute. I had an application that would let me what did they call it when you blasted a database over? They had a term. I could copy a database over to my Palm Pilot. So all of our support tickets and all of the hardware inventory and all that stuff, I carried around in my Palm 3. This was an
So
amazing time.
NetWare. That's what I remember. Like NetWare bindery services.
Did you see that screenshot? There was a screenshot on Reddit the other day of a NetWare like 3.1 machine that has uptime of 16 years.
Yeah,
It's like 6,000 days.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you the story about a friend of mine who worked for a large financial organization in New York
No.
City, and he was doing stuff related. Basically, he was doing a market data verification, which is a really fancy way of saying, trying to, this was like 10, 15 years ago, where they were trying to have the price of the stock that shows up in their app be much, much closer to the price of the stock on Wall Street.
The actual price.
The actual price,
Yeah.
right? Because it takes time, much like doing things in government or walking down the street or parking in San Francisco. It takes time. But
that parking in San Francisco will really break you, won't it? Just add 30 minutes to drive around in circles looking for a space, even when you can pay for it. It's not like we're looking for free or cheap parking.
What's
meters
so
are
funny
$2 an hour.
So many of the parking lots in San Francisco have been turned into luxury condominium buildings. That literally, like, places that you were always able to park at don't exist anymore. They're either a giant hole in the ground where they're hammering, steel beams.
Tell me about it.
It's a bunch of $1 million, one bedroom / what do they call those?
Studios. Yeah.
Studios.
One of my favorite Twitter accounts right now is the San Francisco real estate listings, and it's rooms, not even apartments.
Right.
It's like, here is a bed in a house with 3 bedrooms, 3 beds per room. You can get a bed for $1,500 or $2,000 a month.
There's a crazy study that some local real estate organization did where they polled engineers, right?
Train drivers.
No.
Software engineers.
Software engineers.
Okay.
Zynga, Uber, I
Facebook,
would assume Twitter, Facebook,
yeah.
Google, and they looked at their average salary, which is like $150,000 to $160,000.
Average starting is $250 for an engineer in San Francisco right now.
Well, apparently this includes a lot of people who started a while ago and didn't get paid well or something. But it was looking at this was their numbers. Maybe people were rounding down.
Yeah.
But it was like the average salary was like $150,000 to $160,000. The average price they were paying for a 1 bedroom was around $3,500, and for a 2 bedroom was like $4,400 and change. So yeah, things are completely out of control in San Francisco. But I brought all of this long, insane train of thought up because part of what we're looking at here is trying to, the sort of week 2 of National Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2015 is creating a culture of cybersecurity at work.
Okay.
And so much of what we're looking at is people that haven't really been concerned about the internet, and now, or the fact that all of their information really is in the cloud, as all of those executives at Sony found out when all of their correspondence got blasted out in the universe and all of their private conversations.
We all know how they feel about Adam Sandler now. They're unimpressed, but he makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
I locked the door before we started the podcast, so I think that I've done my part for American Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
That's a physical security thing.
Well, but we're on the internet right now. We're streaming this out to the internet, so we're connected to the internet. We're protecting the. No, that's not going to work, huh?
How would I rate my overall experience today at the Department of Homeland Security? No,
always a 1 star.
Outstanding. What information were you looking for today?
Speaking of things that were outstanding,
Microsoft. How about that?
Who would have thunk it? Norm was there. Norm's not here today because he was at the Microsoft event yesterday, and I think that he's noodling around New York City because we've been working the last 3 weekends.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It happens. I'm on the way out, so we got to pack as much in as we can while I'm still on the clock. The event was pretty outstanding. Like, they did unfortunately I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but what I saw, they had a really it was incredibly long but full.
There used to be this moment when Microsoft was still doing the keynotes at CES, where you'd have this moment where you'd be watching, and this is reaching way back now, but I remember looking at
Bill Gates's.
Thank you. I'm
the
having
CEO and chairman of former CEO and chairman of Microsoft.
Yeah, apparently my computer is now wiping
okay.
my brain. So apparently I did piss off North Korea.
Yeah.
But like Bill Gates has this enormous, very public crash of a piece of software, and you can tell like everybody in the little pen where they put the journalists is all thinking, this wouldn't have happened at an Apple demo. Not with Steve Jobs.
Well, the thing when I was there, and I remember thinking, wow, he's going to fucking murder someone at the end of this.
Yeah.
Because, the reputation in the world, as I know it, is that while he has turned into an amazing philanthropist and a wonderful person, you didn't want to go to a meeting with Bill without knowing all the answers to everything he might possibly ask.
Ever.
And you didn't want to embarrass him on stage.
So
it's hard. It's funny. It's been so long, I can barely remember what the Gates keynotes were like. I should go back and watch one of them.
They were long and not nearly as enthralling as an Apple keynote.
Well, but they were at CES, so they should have been a little bit more tedious, right?
Just to fit in with the theme.
Yeah.
I think I like CES more than anybody else left at this point.
I don't like CES. I used to like Comdex, okay? Because it was in the fall.
Right.
CES is a bad time of year. You don't want to be in Vegas in January. It's not a happy time to be there.
At this point, my clock has so completely reset it. My annual clock, basically, the new year doesn't start for me
Until you've been to Vegas?
until I come back from Vegas after CES.
Ooh. So I just remember the Ballmer keynotes that kind of always, like, you knew you were getting near the end when Ballmer started sweating. Like when he had changed shirts once, when you'd seen the hint, and then he went backstage and came back out in no sweat.
Yeah.
That's when you knew you were on. The second shirt was usually marked the
beginning
the peak
of
of
the
the keynote. It was the end of Act 2 and into the exactly
the falling action.
Okay, so they gave some status updates. 110 million users have installed Windows 10. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think they got what they wanted when they made it free.
They wanted that kind of like the iOS 8 adoption rate, like 90% of the 90-something% of the user base has moved to the new version of the operating system, which is a big deal for Microsoft. It was a beautiful presentation by everything I got to see of it. Xbox games. I laugh because like the first thing I can tell you're sort of building on this, right? Because like the first thing on the list in the doc is after Xbox One games is Microsoft banned.
This is the order that they did it, I think.
2. Yeah, well, you can tell they were building because with all due respect to the Microsoft Band 2, it's a $250 heart monitor that in theory kind of works with all of the operating systems, which it has to.
It has a barometric pressure sensor now, and it includes Cortana integration.
You can buy barometric sensors, for your Arduinos and or your Raspberry Pis on Amazon now. And I'm just not as impressed with the barometric sensor as I used to.
This is one on my phone.
Yeah,
I'm
which is awesome. When I go mountain climbing, I'll have a better idea what elevation.
You'll know
I'm
exactly what the error on the GPS goes away. The thing about the band is I've only ever seen Microsoft employees wearing them.
Right.
Partly because they get a really nice discount on Microsoft hardware at the store, but partly because I don't like the Fitbit Surge is in the same category. It's $250. Yeah. It's an exercise tracker. It's a heart rate monitor. I don't think people are interested in that. Like $100 Jawbone Up or Fitbit makes a lot of sense. A $50 Fitbit makes even more sense. $250 for that, you're getting into smartwatch territory, and I'd rather have a Pebble.
Yeah, which I think makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, there's a Band 2. I totally forgot about the Band 1.
I mean, like in a world where we hadn't had this explosion of smartwatches in the last 2 years, I might be more interested in it. Like the idea of a thing that's not a watch, but it's a connected smart thing that lives on my wrist. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
The fact that they're adding Cortana support so that she can nag you when you don't go exercise that day, probably a feature that I could actually use. I don't want that. I don't even like the thing on the Apple Watch that says, "Hey, dummy, it's time to stand up."
Well, okay, HoloLens dev kits.
Yeah.
I'm excited because to me, despite the fact they're $3,000, despite the fact that I guess basically have to apply to receive it, which I assume they're just doing that just to weed out the dilettantes.
I mean, it feels like the price feels like a throwback.
Right.
In the old days,
it's a very Microsoft price. It's not a freaking, they basically like gave away all of their coding tools at Build this year. And now to, the coolest thing, with all due respect to the Surface Book, which we'll get to in a minute.
I thought that was pretty cool.
The Surface Book looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I thought it was nice. It's really, well, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, but I mean, like the HoloLens, it's funny because like they did all this stuff like all of our code is open and it'll work on all the platforms. We made it easy to move your stuff. And the HoloLens, you're going to need $3,000 to test one. What?
I mean, so there's a bunch of different ways to handle dev hardware on new platforms like that. Oculus basically said, look, anybody can buy one. They're $300 or $400. Get in line, pay your money, and you can get it at what I assume is close to their cost so that they get it out to as many people as possible.
Right.
Now, there's pros and cons to that method, meaning that they've sold 250,000 headsets, and now they have to support 250,000 headsets.
Well, 125,000 of them were collecting dust on mantelpieces somewhere or in drawers.
Fair enough. But a lot of people went out and bought that when they said, hey, don't buy this because it was cheap enough.
And made YouTube videos about how much it sucked.
But they built this audience that they then felt like they had to support, and that's been distracting from their goals, right? On the other hand, you have Valve, who rolled out Vive dev kits, and they're basically invitation only. You can apply. The first round was invitation only, then they let people apply, and they're not going to start selling them until the end of the year, just to anybody who gets in the queue, because they didn't want to have to support that big giant ecosystem of not developers buying developer hardware. So Microsoft seems like they've gone a slightly more egalitarian way in that anybody can buy one.
Yeah.
But charging $3,000 for it means that like Fortune 500, it's going to be a corporate tool.
EA
at the
is going to
beginning.
buy 20.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think the big publishers, they're so risk averse now. I mean, there's a reason those guys aren't developing for Oculus and Vive too. Like the AAA publishers aren't in on those platforms because they want to wait and see how many headsets they sell before they invest $20 million in building a game for them.
Because they're fools.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
they're
We'll see. I
fools.
have a vested interest in success of VR stuff, so I feel like I probably shouldn't comment. But
You don't say.
they're fools. They did a demo of Project X-Ray. This is a game that Norm actually played at E3. We were only able to get one HoloLens appointment, and he took it since I'd already seen it at GDC. The way that they demo that, so this is about where I signed off. The way that they showed that HoloLens hardware on stage by putting a HoloLens that has a big screen in front of a camera, so it looks like it paints over the whole field of view, is really, really disingenuous. And I asked Norm if he had gotten to see HoloLens at this event, and they said they weren't doing any demos for HoloLens. So it's like they may have expanded the FOV of the screen that goes in front of your eyes.
We talked about this right
Yeah.
after Build, where the videos they shoot with all these crazy red cameras strapped onto PEDs, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
you have this huge expansive field of vision, and then you get into the demo and you're really excited because you're gonna, and it's a box.
Make a rectangle about 1.5 feet in front of your face, and hold it right there, and that's what gets the AR stuff painted into it.
It's not exactly what I would call optimal for gaming environments that aren't, say, simulating fighting zombies underground in a dark tunnel with a headlamp on.
Making you feel like the whole stage was interactive is, I think, really disingenuous.
The flip side of that is maybe by the time they're ready to sell the hardware to consumers, they'll have the entire inside of the giant space helmet
Hopefully.
covered.
And I mean, there's nothing to say that they couldn't move the screens, because they move the existing screens even that they have closer to your eyes in the final hardware, you get a bigger FOV.
We wait with bated breath.
I mean, my understanding is that what we saw at E3 and GDC was pretty close to final.
So Project X-Ray looked good? Question mark. I did not see that.
I
I was so obsessed with the Surface.
You can't judge those games.
By a
Like
demo.
seeing a stage demo at E3. If there's anything that I've learned over the last 15 to 18
trailers
years doing this,
aren't video games.
don't look at trailers. Don't look at stage demos during E3 and CES and press events.
Right.
Just play the games. See how they are. I mean, it may be cool. It may not. I don't know. He had gun hands. He had a gun that overlaid on his hand. It looked very much like the Weta Magic Leap video that's on YouTube that has 3 million views.
Cool.
Which looks super rad and also is super tech demo. I mean, I can't imagine is real. But
We'll find
see.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting. The Surface, it's so okay. So the Surface Book, which
I think we should do Surface Pro 4 despite the order that I put them in. But Surface Pro 4, we knew that was coming.
Yeah.
No surprises. It's Skylake U, I believe. So it's a fanless, but the current gen hardware.
like an M3 through an i7. It's kind of it's. I actually really. This is an odd thing for me to say. I went to the buy a Surface or pre-order a Surface page, and I have to say it wasn't quite perfect, but it was one of these. Given how crufty so many places to order PCs are these days, it was amazing because you can basically you can't I want the 1 terabyte hard drive and the 16 gigabytes of RAM and this processor. You have to pick a processor, and then it opens up a matrix, and you can pick the next level. You can't get a 1 terabyte drive from them unless you have a Core i7. But
is it better than what Apple does? Apple, you basically get 2 or 3 models.
yeah, I think, and I it's funny. I'm actually just thinking about the actual interface on the website because I was realizing that I built a Skylake PC recently, and I just remember having one of those moments where buying parts is a pain in the ass, and I was and then I was looking at buying a PC, and it was an even bigger pain in the ass. So I just laugh because mostly I'm excited. It's user upgradable memory on the Surface Pro 4, 16 gigabytes max. They've got they'll sell it to you, with a giant ass hard drive.
Well, SSD.
Yeah, it's a 12.3 inch display up from a 12-inch display, and increased resolution, which is a good idea. Battery life isn't killer. They're looking at 8 to 9 hours.
That's plenty, realistically.
My problem is I still pine for the 24-hour laptop.
When did you have that? In
I've never had that.
1993?
I'm pining for it.
Oh, you want it now.
It is something I want.
That would last me a whole work week.
Well, that makes one of us.
Well, no, because when I'm at home, I use my desktop.
Oh, okay.
And when I'm here, I use a laptop.
I just built a new desktop machine, and I don't really have a desk at home. I have a desk in the garage, and the garage has been a giant unmitigated mess involving me fabricating tools to try to fix a truck. But that's an entirely different boring story.
we all have similar problems.
So now I need to I need to finish putting a desktop back up in my garage, so I'm not constantly living on a laptop. But it's interesting, right? So new type covers, fingerprint sensor. The keys look to be a lot better on the type cover. 2036 by 1834, which comes like 267 pixels per inch, which is pretty good. 3 by 2, which some people have issues with, some people don't have issues too. But that's the way the Surface has been the entire way. Microsoft button is gone.
I thought that was good.
Starts at $899, and I love the fact that I gotta say, I love the fact that you can jack that thing up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, because I love my Dell XPS 13. Every other machine I use has 16 gigabytes of RAM if I can upgrade it to 16 gigabytes of RAM.
I find that on Windows 8 is usually really good unless you're doing specific things. But sometimes on different price points, especially in that sub $1,000, getting to 8 gigs is even a challenge, right?
Yeah, agreed.
I feel like so I watched Norm's video with the new. He got hands on with all this stuff. They actually had type covers. Okay, first off, the new type cover design, I don't have the old one here, unfortunately, but the old one were kind of the square flat keys that kind of wobbled from side to side.
Which is unfortunate if you're a touch typist.
It wasn't great. It wasn't a great typing experience. The new one, which as I understand is backwards compatible with the Surface Pro 3, has the chiclet keys that are on the Microsoft portable keyboards, the ones that they make for iPad and iPhone and Android devices.
Nice.
And they're tactile. They're much more like the Mac keyboard. It's a scissor design, so when you push it, you can hit it anywhere on the key and it works. I think that they're probably, if I had to guess, like 80 to 90% full size keys, which is totally indistinguishable in my experience from full size. It looked really good, and he said that the glass trackpad on the new type cover dramatically better than the previous one, which is almost unusable.
Yeah,
like the existing one, they might as well have not put on because you have to use your finger on the screen. Fingerprint sensor is optional.
Okay.
I assume that that's an enterprise requirement, that they want biometric scans for two-factor on if they want to sell that thing at enterprise.
Which brings us back to the whole network security thing, but I won't go down that.
It's Cyber Security Awareness Month. That's the name of the episode, Patrick.
Cyber Security Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the big scam, the big and growing scam is these days?
What is it?
Is basically tapping into email and sending the person that is responsible for ordering things from China and having them wire money to a factory that does not exist or an order that does not exist.
Wow.
And billions of dollars.
Wow.
is going down this particular rat hole. So if you run a large organization that purchases a lot of stuff from factories in China, it's time to do an actual, no longer validate orders based on email, but have a two-factor system where, if you get the order, you have to call the executive and verify manually, because they're doing some incredible email spoofing in the process of that. Surface Book.
This is a big deal. This was a surprise.
Yeah. No, I certainly didn't expect this.
None of us expect. No one expects the Surface Book.
Well, you've survived the Surface Pro 4.
Okay, so what they have is it's a high-end laptop. We'll start with that because it starts at $1,500. It is a Surface branded laptop, touch screen, integrated built-in keyboard on a bottom chassis. It's convertible, so you can put it forwards and back. But the neat thing is you can detach the screen and it becomes a tablet. But there's still logic and more battery in the keyboard part.
Yeah.
So it feels like a normal laptop. It's a convertible tablet. It is a high-end thing. It has discrete graphics, which is unusual. Norm said that the discrete graphics actually live in the keyboard, which I did not know.
Well, that makes sense. It's funny because the MacBook, the Surface Pro 4 is 2.33 pounds, give or take. The Surface Book is like 3.5 pounds. Has the option for the discrete NVIDIA graphics. They're not really talking about what they are.
They didn't have those. So the demo units that they gave out to press who went to the event are not the discrete graphics, as I understand it.
But I mean,
I don't know if I was supposed to say that actually.
Have what?
What?
Who?
Huh?
Excuse me? Did
Anyway,
you say something about Surface?
I didn't say anything about anything.
But it looks, it's funny because there was certainly a bunch of, what basically amounts to a bunch of snarking about how, the Surface Pro 4, we're outperforming the Air. They're basically saying, we're building a MacBook Pro killer.
Well, and that's interesting because, it seems like at the screen size, it's what 13 and a half inches. It's more of a 13-inch MacBook Pro than a 15-inch MacBook Pro. 13-inch MacBook Pro you can only get with integrated.
Yeah.
So like that is, I have a 13-inch MacBook Pro. I absolutely love it.
Right.
I would love it a lot more if I could get real graphics in it.
I mean, it's interesting. Great, 256 gigabyte core. Well, you know what? Oh wow! It seems like the options have gone down from earlier today.
They may have less availability.
They may have sold out.
Yeah.
Because earlier today, I was looking at the price for like a 16 gigabyte, 1 terabyte discrete. Or maybe I'm hallucinating. It's interesting, like 3000 by 2000 resolution on that 13.5 inch screen, which averages out to like 267 pixels per inch, which is a little more dense than the MacBook Pro. It's gorgeous. I don't know if I did a good job of explaining how it folds over.
Yeah. So it's got this
on Tech Thing this morning.
It's got this hinge that's almost like scalloped, right?
It's very industrial, like it is the articulated joint on my undersea venturing outfit kind of look to it.
Yeah. The neat thing is the display is held on with magnets. It's electronically controlled magnets. So when you hit the button on the display, the magnets release. You can lift it out. You can flip it around. So there's no kind of weird twisty hinge or anything like that.
I'm just laughing because I'm like, electromagnets in my laptop.
I mean, there's no magnetic storage in there anymore. It's fine. This is the future, man.
Sorry.
But yeah, so you can flip it around, so you don't have the weird thing where the keyboard's on the bottom when you're using like a yoga in its tablet mode, or you can use it without the tablet at all. I mean, without the keyboard at all.
But you're going to lose, battery life and possibly graphics performance.
Yeah, I mean, a significant amount of battery life, I assume. I think it's and it includes the pen, so they're including the digitizer. So it seems like this is a content creation tool at $1,500, starting at $1,500 without the discrete graphics. Is kind of insane. The big question I have, it looks like you can get models with the discrete GPU without the discrete GPU. Since that's in the keyboard, I wonder if you'll be able to buy one and then switch out to the discrete GPU later if you so desire.
It would be an interesting way to solve the how do I make my machine faster over time with better graphics thing that we keep. There's a bunch of the toaster devices now for your external GPU. I also like to point out that the Pro is available with a 1 terabyte drive, but the seemingly much more video editing friendly book is only available with a 512 gigabyte drive max. Just double check the specs.
How much is it with the 512? How much is the high end? Oh wow, $2,700.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Can you even? Now I want to look up what the price of
a 13-inch MacBook Pro fully loaded is like $1,900, as I recall.
But
but no discrete GPU.
Yeah, no discrete GPU.
And no touch screen, and you can't blast the screen off. I mean, you could rip the screen off, but I don't think it would come back from that.
Usability would decline precipitously after its removal.
You would have some problems. I'm going to confirm that because I'm
2.9 gigahertz processor, 512 gigabytes of storage. That's an Intel Core i5. The 13-inch, the best processor they use is a Core i5. With the 15-inch, you can go up to a Core i7, and that's $2,000 to $2,500.
Are these dual cores or quad cores? These are dual cores.
These are all
right?
quad cores.
On the 13-inch, it's always dual core on the Mac.
I'm talking MacBook Pros.
That's what I'm talking about. The 13-inch is a dual core.
Look, I used my touchscreen.
Oh, man, that must be nice.
Write it down. Yeah, dual core. It's been so long since I've been even in the market for anything other than a MacBook Air. It never occurred to me that they did that stupid dual core thing in the 13-inch. Sorry, I like small screens. I don't like 15-inch laptops. I like clicking into a monitor if I need a bigger screen. But yeah, if you want a quad core CPU, you're going to a 15-inch MacBook, and you're right in that $2,000 territory.
So the interesting thing is on the book side, they don't say whether this is a quad or a dual.
Really?
No, it says 6th gen Intel Core i5 or i7. I'm gonna Command F here. Core. There we go. Nope. Yep. Dual core or quad core. I don't know. I'm assuming these have got to be dual cores. But I mean, at that price, I would hope they'd be quad cores. We'll see. They're really pushing this laptop hard. They're describing it as the best laptop ever made. The interesting thing to me is, and actually, that it sounds good. Like it looks really good on paper. It's a little bit more expensive than I would like, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. Right. And definitely I'd rather have a $1,500 laptop with a removable screen and a discrete GPU, or a $1,700 laptop with a removable screen and a discrete GPU, then a $1,700 laptop without a removable screen and without a discrete GPU. What does this mean for the other folks in the Windows ecosystem?
That's the thing that is puzzling me because, despite the fact that, you're buying this operating system that evolves over time, right? Because we're giving away the cow and the milk, but you'll buy more milk later, or we're going to make money.
You'll buy grass from the Windows App Store. Yeah,
there's an interesting kind of model going on there, but I can't imagine that Dell and HP and everybody else are looking at this going like, that's the most son of a bitch.
Yeah, no, this is if you're a PC OEM, you're not super. I mean, so I tweeted this during the press conference. I was like, man, this is great news for every single person in the Windows ecosystem except for HP, Dell, and Lenovo, and I guess Asus and Acer to some extent. The response from the people who follow me on Twitter, which is not an actual survey, is just anecdotal, was basically fuck everybody else in the ecosystem because they're terrible and have made bad products for a long time, and I would much rather get something that's good than deal with that nonsense again.
No,
it's interesting because this is the argument that Mac people have made for years. Right? Look, my Mac is more expensive than your PC, but I don't have a bunch of crapware put on it that I have to install or deal with. And I don't have to worry about them installing rootkits or something like that because they want to sell adware.
Okay, one company had that whole...
multiple times.
Okay, well... Yeah.
And Sony did it too.
So I was going to say, oh yeah, but wait, Sony and Lenovo did that. Well, it's funny because the last couple... Apple desktops I was involved with were Hackintoshes because the prices for the desktop Macs are so outrageous.
Arguably, at this point, you shouldn't be buying desktop Macs unless you really, really, really want to run Final Cut.
Well, and that's or you're Premiere and you're stuck in an OS 10 environment. But
you should be building PCs to run Premiere now.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
that's the beautiful thing about Premiere.
I just built a machine to run Premiere, right? But there's still people that are not so much with Final Cut, but there's still places where they're still kind of OS 10 centric,
right?
So
well, and like magazine layout places. But I would argue at this point you should be doing graphic design stuff on big iMacs rather than Mac Pros.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's funny because like for me, the justification. I waited a long time for the Core i7 6700K to finally be available at its close to its MSRP because it was selling for 150 to 150 plus, 150 almost $200 over.
That's
MSRP.
the quad core.
Yeah, that's the 6700K, the quad core. It does look like, by the way, that the book has a dual core 4-thread.
So a dual core with hyper-threading.
Yeah, like a 6300U, I think. But for me, it was like
right. If they're used, they have to be dual core.
Yeah, it's so irritating.
Yeah.
But I don't particularly want to buy. I don't want to spend $2,000 and not have 4 cores, and 8 threads. But the part of the reason I'm obsessed with that right now is because I spend a lot of time rendering video because tech thing is video, and a lot of the stuff I do is video, and video takes a long time to render. And I've been laughing because I've been using this like sub $400 gaming PC as a desktop for a while that we built last year, which essentially has a dual core Pentium in it. And going from the dual core Pentium to a Core i5 that's about 2 years old took me from like 25 frames per second in Handbrake to 50 frames per second, and without even getting things tuned up. On the Core i7 box, I'm rendering upwards of like 97 frames per second.
Oh yeah.
So I have quartered my video rendering time, and I've suddenly got back X number of minutes or hours every week.
It means it's way more stuff you can put out.
Yeah, or I can finally spend time experimenting, and I can do 8 experiments in 3 or 4 hours instead of 3 or 4 days.
You need a hexacore, man, or octa-core.
I want a hexacore, but not for $1,000 for the CPU.
You can get hexacores for $300 now.
Not.
But you have to buy the motherboard. You have to buy the motherboards are way more expensive because they're multi.
At this point,
and quad channel memory and all that stuff. It's DDR4 too, so it's way more expensive.
At this point, I'm looking like I'm going to get another 16 gigabytes of RAM. I got 16 gigabytes of RAM and an ECS. Claymore is a really great name for a motherboard.
Wow.
I need more SATA ports. I'm probably gonna have to upgrade the motherboard, but I'm looking at $350, $500, $600 worth of RAM. It'll be, by the time I get up to 32 gigabytes, it'll be $700 with the RAM, the motherboard, and the CPU, and that's not a lot of money for the amount of time I just gained.
No.
The performance and video.
And that's always like when you're talking about. Did I just run over your cord?
Possibly. Oh, there it goes.
Okay.
It was like, and then the audio stopped.
When I mean, basically, when you're talking about a production machine,
Right.
you look at the amount of money you're paying the person, the amount of money it costs when you wait for the content, and then all of a sudden the $4,000 for a really fancy ass PC to do, or Mac or whatever, to do what you need to do,
Right.
suddenly doesn't seem like that much.
So, for me, my calculation was a little different. If you're gaming on 1080p and you have no expectations of moving to 4K anytime soon, at that point you're looking at like a $200 GPU.
Yeah.
I
I mean, you can splurge and get a $400 GPU and be ready for VR next year.
Okay. that's a hint of self-interest, but we're okay with that here. Patreon.com/tech thing.
Man, Norm goes out of town, the whole thing just goes off the rails, doesn't it?
We're not off the rails yet. We're teetering. But the thing is, like, I've been talking about this with friends that benchmark GPUs for a living. If you're running 1080p, you start really running out of excuses at this point. You're starting to push it to get a $300 GPU.
Oh yeah.
If you're doing gaming, the first games that really actually need a quad core CPU really started showing up last year, right? So
well, it's the stuff that ported from the new consoles, right?
Yeah. It's nice for a change for me to be, for the most part, ahead of the curve on graphics performance and CPU performance. But I mean, video production is the bottomless pit of performance. Gaming is not the bottomless pit of performance. It has been. Fortunately, people like yourself and the folks
The brave
at
new
Oculus
pioneers
are trying
of the medium that's going to change computing forever.
Boy, that sounds like a lot of pitches I've heard over the last 20
I've been
years.
talking to a lot of business people this week. Okay, so Surface Book. My takeaway is it's really neat.
Yes.
It's not going to impact the $800, the $500-$800 laptop market at all. I think, like, if I'm looking at a high end product and I want to get, I'm either building a workstation machine, something that content creators can use and carry with them, or something that is an all-in-one, your only computer. Right. It's a compelling alternative, although it is a little bit expensive.
It's not a little bit expensive. It's expensive.
I mean, you're compared to what you can get the same hardware on a Spectre X2 or whatever.
Right.
It's crazy expensive.
So, but beautiful.
But and that hinge is really neat. My Norm said it just stops wherever you. Yeah, it's neat.
And well, Microsoft builds pretty decent hardware, so hopefully it'll still stop and stay where it's supposed to in 2
at least
years.
The second or third generation they usually get there. The other thing that's worth mentioning is
I did the same thing.
What?
Oh yeah, there's also a pair of Lumia phones, the 950 and the 950 XL.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
The other thing about the Surface Book is you can use it on your lap, which the Surface Pros, you can kind of use them on your lap. It's not a super good experience.
Right.
This is a real laptop that you can sit in the airport with the laptop on your lap and use like a real computer.
Or in the car.
Or wherever you don't have a place to rest, a table to rest your thing on.
And I spend a lot of time working on the computers in places where I don't have a table, so that would be a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend that much money for a laptop.
I like the Surface Pro. I like laying on the couch, full recline with my knees up and the screen resting on my knees. That's a pretty good way to do that.
Space computing.
Yeah. It's like I'm in a Soyuz capsule.
Yeah.
And by the way, they released a couple of phones.
The 950 and the 950 XL.
It's good that hold on, there was one more, wasn't there?
Does it really matter?
No.
I feel I want.
People are gonna be really pissed when by the way I did that transition. I was in Seattle last week, man. I saw one Windows phone.
Yeah.
People don't use those things.
No.
It was really bright and yellow. It was very pretty. I think it looks really neat.
It's 2% of the market. It's
That's
kind
it?
of pricey for what it. The last numbers I saw put Windows at like 2% of the worldwide market. I mean, what really brings it home for me is if you go to the Windows Phone page, I think there's like 9 phones total that are being made currently, versus Android where there's 42 million.
A Google,
phones. Yeah.
literally.
A Google of phones being made.
It's one with 24 zeros. I think I can't remember.
Yeah. So
and then the 2 to 10 iPhones, depending on whether you count colors as different SKUs or not.
Not currently.
Okay.
But that's just me being petty.
Okay.
Although I do love that dusky rose. Reminds me of 70s
The Bros Gold?
The Bros Gold. Now I just want to go like, all right, all right, all right.
That's exactly where I went. Just straight to the link letter. The thing that I like, the thing that was interesting about this was that they showed Continuum, which is something they've teased off and on for a long time with Windows phones, where you have this dock. I think they call it the display dock.
Right.
Is that what I wrote down? And you can pipe your phone's output to a Windows machine, and you get like a Windows desktop off of the phone. I mean, we saw this years and years ago with a terrible Motorola phone.
Harsh, but fair.
It was a flaming piece of garbage. What was it? The Motorola.
Flaming piece of garbage.
Yeah, flaming piece of garbage.
I would like to say, by the way, the Moto G is a unbelievable phone.
Oh no!
Money. Yeah.
The new phones that they're making now. I'm talking about the one that had the laptop attachment and the dock and all the other stuff, and just the SoCs at the time couldn't drive a Linux desktop, which is essentially what they were trying to do. Those SoCs now are potent and are able to run presumably real hardware. I don't think Norm got hands on with that there. I'm interested to see how that actually works in practice. Because like that seems like it could be an interesting product.
I would be so much more excited about that if I actually had any likelihood of purchasing a Windows phone between now and the end of my life.
They have Uber. They have an Uber app now. Also, if you are one of the 2% that has a Windows phone today, Falcon, the Windows Phone mobile update is coming to other devices in December. And there's a list of the devices they support someplace on a website that I didn't go look at.
Which means probably Windows Phone users will get their updates before Android users get their Marshmallow updates, but that's just me sniping.
The Android users are still waiting for Honeycomb or Honeycrisp or KitKat or whatever the last one was.
Harsh but fair, once again. Have you seen the Roku 4, just to completely sidetrack for a second?
No.
So they announced, it kind of, unfortunately for
Is
Roku.
it the 4K?
It is the 4K.
Really?
Yes. So, well, it's funny because there's like
how did I miss this?
There's like 5 services because you're obsessed with Microsoft. As well we should be. It was a great day for Microsoft.
It's a good day for Microsoft. It was a good event. All told, like they showed good stuff. We joke about the phones, but the stuff that they showed on the Windows side was what they needed to show.
Yeah.
It felt like Microsoft that I mean this was Satya Nadella's first big unveil.
Yeah.
And like I was stoked about it. You know, Panos did a nice job with the Surface stuff.
Right.
It seems like they have a cohesive product platform for the first time in recent memory that literally stretches across everything. They also rolled out the new Xbox experience to preview members last night or the night before. So if you're in that preview program, I think you can get the Windows 10 version of the Xbone OS now.
That's awesome.
Anyway, Roku 4.
Roku 4, $130, shipping October 21st, 4K support.
Who has 4K content?
So it turns out more people than I thought.
YouTube?
You know, I had a list of it, and I completely lost the list of it, but it's...
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
YouTube, Netflix. Apparently Vudu's going to start doing 4K on the ship date.
Is Vudu the Stars thing?
Vudu was originally a startup that got bought by Walmart. I think they ended up being bought by them. They're kind of Walmart streaming video arm. Part of what made me laugh is it now not only has a Netflix, the remote not only has a Netflix and an Amazon button, but there's also a Sling and a radio and an audio button. But I like the idea that Amazon Prime. Now we know why Amazon has suspended sales of the Chromecast and the Apple TV.
Yeah.
It's not because of it's because they don't have an Amazon Prime button on the remote control. Possibly the best thing about this is the fact that the remote control, you can hit a button on the top of the Roku 4 box and your remote control will start beeping so you can find it.
That thing's awesome. That's great. That's a lovely feature. But those buttons, the buttons that always change, so I have a couple of different Rokus, and the button labels change based on the companies they have deals with.
Right.
It makes me absolutely bananas because it's always shit that I don't use. It's like iHeartRadio and some other nonsense.
I never use the Netflix button to launch Netflix on remote control.
I never think about it.
I start it, I go bing, 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 click, zoom.
So I usually use Harmonies for everything. And I put a TV in the bedroom earlier this year against my better judgment, just because I was tired of having a sick kid and having to deal with her in the living room being sick instead of being able to throw her in her bed.
Right. Go hide in the dark.
Go, well, no, 'cause she'll sleep in there. If you put the television on there and she's sick, she'll go to sleep after a little while.
That's
in
a
the middle of
miracle.
the day, which
my children will
yeah.
watch television until their eyes fall out of their sockets.
Well, she's only 2.5, so we're monsters for putting her in front of the TV in the first place. But like I detest those buttons. If they were programmable, so I could make them whatever they want, they'd be amazing because they're part of a marketing deal. You can't ever fucking change them.
Tell us how you really feel.
Crazy making. The Roku 4 looks really good. I can't find a list of the content partners that have 4K, but they're doing 60 frames per second 4K, which is interesting.
I mean, it's like HDMI 1.4a, not HDMI 2.0, so it's 30 frames per second at 4K, which is not a problem for video content.
Oh, ours says it's 60 frames a second at 4K.
Really?
Yeah, they say it's 2.2. Oh no, yeah, 2.2. HDCP 2.2.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's okay. 4K UHD 60 frames per second, HEVC playback, 4K UHD 30 frames per second, VP9 playback. Upscales 1080p to 4K on 4K UHD TVs. So maybe it's that's interesting. So it's 30 frames per second for VP9 playback, which is YouTube. Oh, interesting. I'll have to correct that on thing next week. I feel so shameful. 802.11ac MIMO dual band wireless, which I think is freaking awesome.
Yeah, the AC thing is a huge deal. Like, I can stream Blu-rays from Plex uncompressed, like raw H.264 across AC with no problems.
I am warming to AC, especially because AC routers in real world seem to significantly improve 802.11n performance.
Well,
I was so pissed off. But 802.11n sucks in my house. And
it's a problem in mine too.
So finding out that 802.11 AC router, like boom, upgraded my router.
Well, the thing about the AC routers, especially if you actually like, the mistake is always buying the $60 N router, right?
Right.
Because it'll be a single antenna design or two antenna design, and you don't. The AC routers seem to all have the ability to segment off one antenna and make it an N router.
Yeah.
Dedicate that to N so that you don't have the whole network sag when you connect your old device. I'm a fan of the AC stuff. It's really good. I can stream games from an Xbox to a Surface Pro 3 at 1080p 60 across 802.11ac in my house. So the Xbox is wired, the Surface Pro is wireless, and it is almost indistinguishable from watching it on the TV.
Interesting. Everything I do
really cool.
involving video and the projector is all hardwired Ethernet.
Yeah,
and
well,
then
that's
I don't
smart.
have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. Having the dongle for Ethernet on the Surface Pro 3, not the most desirable thing.
Not the most elegant solution.
There's been a big every time Apple releases a new iPhone, there's a kerfuffle. One time it was about how you hold the phone. One time it was about I can't even remember anymore. Right. But there's always some sort of gate. Right. Hyphen gate associated with iPhone launches. This time, we talked about this a little bit last week, but Apple has two different manufacturers providing SoCs for iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, Samsung and TSMC. The Samsung die is a little bit smaller. The TSMC die is a little bit bigger. And a Reddit user did some extensive battery benchmarks with two phones, one Samsung one TSMC one, and saw that the TSMC version got about an hour and 50 minutes better battery life using the same benchmark. So we're going to see
another lawsuit between Apple and Samsung because Samsung's obviously trying to tank Apple by reducing battery life on the phones.
Wow, that's a level of paranoid I hadn't even gotten to yet. That's impressive. But
that's because I'm carrying an iPhone right now, and now I desperately want to figure out what chips inside.
Are you figuring you got a 6S? There's an Engadget post that has an app that you can download that'll tell you which version you have.
I'm on that Engadget page right now.
Go to the bottom one because there's one that requires you put a security, agree to a security profile thing.
No.
The other one you can get from the App Store, the one that they tell you about second.
Lirum Device Info Lite. By the way, in China, they just shut down a App Store app, non-jailbroken. This is not a jailbroken iPhone app, but a App Store app that was basically doing massive redirects and hijacking APIs inside the phone.
Great.
Mostly to replay ads, but Palo Alto Networks did a huge thing on the fact that
is this related to the Xcode thing from a couple of weeks ago? The spoofed version of Xcode?
No, this is
separate.
This is separate. Basically, it was there was this application that apparently was very popular to do peer-to-peer sharing of pornography because it's so difficult to bring that stuff out on the Chinese internet. Right. And it was shut down. And then this came back claiming to be the sort of resuscitation of that, and it just turned out to be just full of rage and hate and slipped through the testing.
Wow.
But
I mean, why if they're going to gate the App Store so much, why and yet they still miss this stuff? Why do they gate the App Store so much?
I don't know, but I bet they're going to be gating the App Store a lot harder in China.
Yeah.
It also occurs to me that this is a iPhone 6, not a 6S, so I don't have an A9 processor.
So you're fine. It's the 6S and 6S Plus. The Lirum, what is it? Lirum something Pro?
Lirum device info light available directly from Apple's own App Store.
Yeah.
My thanks to Engadget.
And you can open that up. It will tell you which version of the processor you have, and then you compare that to the list. One is the Samsung one is the TSMC one. I will tell you, I have the Samsung one in my 6 Plus. Independently of this, yesterday I said, man, this new 6S Plus, the battery sure is shit compared to the 6S was. The 6 Plus was. I'm running out of battery by the end of the day, which literally in a year of using the 6 Plus never happened before.
Yeah, see, I'm running out of battery on this phone right now, but I'm trying to figure out what application I loaded that's yarking in the background.
So iOS 9 added a bunch of background stuff that seems to be impacting it. A lot of people
I'm
said
still running on iOS 8, man.
Oh, I should have known. A lot of people said to turn off the Wi-Fi assist feature. I did that. I also went through and deleted all the apps I don't use. I looked at battery usage. The new Tweetbot, which came out earlier this week, seems to be maybe a little bit of a hoss on battery. We'll see if I can adapt that. I'd be interested to hear if people have experienced similar problems with their 6Ss and 6S Pluses.
I will say, like the Lirum device application is kind of fascinating, even if you don't have a 6S or a 6S Plus, just because it's literally inventorying everything that's going on inside of your system.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like a Bell Arc Advisor or something like that for your PC.
It has that feel. I mean,
it really totally looks like Bell Arc Advisor. That's amazing.
It's got that feel.
I'm going to take this back. If I can't figure out the battery problems, it's a disaster right now.
Right.
Like I've the one sterling ray of light in my life over the last year when it comes to technology has been that I don't have to carry a spare battery with my iPhone. I don't carry a charger with me because the 6 Plus, I know I have them. They're good. They're easy. They're light. I get it.
No, I'm just laughing because I don't go anywhere without it.
I have
least
one,
2 batteries.
I have one in my bag. But I haven't had battery anxiety since I got the 6 Plus. Now I have it every day, and if I turn on the GPS for like 5 minutes, it's a complete shit show. I'm at 55%. It's 3:30. That's never happened before. Google is accelerating mobile pages on the internets. I'm going to read a little bit of this because it's interesting. They announced a project called Accelerated Mobile Pages Project for a faster open mobile web. What they're doing is building a infrastructure that strips out some JavaScript, strips out certain HTML tags like iframes that make mobile websites load slowly. And they are delivering them much faster to mobile users.
Faster is good.
It's a little unclear
What
they're doing.
Yeah.
People are a little bit worried. It's a kind of analogous to what Facebook's doing with their news pages, where they're hosting. If you have a web page that Facebook sees people go to and it's too slow, then they'll say, "Hey, we'd be happy to host this for you."
Amazon has come up with a solution, essentially a big, ugly box that holds 50 terabytes of storage and can be mailed back and forth with ease, so the transfers can all be done locally at much higher speeds.
You're talking about the Snowball.
Yeah, I'm looking at a completely different story.
Yeah, you're on the wrong one.
I'm an idiot.
It's okay. We'll talk about that in just a sec. The accelerated mobile pages,
It's like, I know how they're accelerating.
Yeah, you just send it via FedEx. You get the web page 2 days later. It costs $25 to send the envelope, and there you go. No, they're stripping out JavaScript. They're stripping out iframes and stuff like that, and they're basically giving a cached version of the page to mobile users in fractions of a second rather than tens of seconds in some cases.
So Vox, The Verge, BuzzFeed, The Washington Post are already live with AMP pages.
And it seems like Google's going to host this stuff, right? Is that what I'm getting?
That's what you're getting. I'm reading an article on Marketing Land who tends to get really deep on this. Here we go. WordPress is going to have a plugin to enable publishing in the formats. But wait, says Marketing Land. Isn't having 2 copies of the same page a terrible thing from an SEO perspective? Yes, unless you make use of mechanisms like the canonical tag or other ways to indicate which is your
or
main
if you
story,
use Google's plan for
which
it,
is
it turns
all
out.
part of AMP.
So you still serve your own ads. You use formats that don't distract from user experience. I assume that this is a follow-on to the stuff that they did a few weeks ago where they said, hey, if you use those annoying things that pop up over your entire screen and say, you should get our mobile app for a better web experience, then they're going to de-SEO you. This is, I assume, the follow-on to that. Hey, we want your shit to be faster. Let's make it good, and here's how we're helping.
Right.
So probably a good thing.
There's a whole series of forums hosting systems that are just making it to the point where I just don't want to use any of the forums.
That's why. Why do you think people don't use forums anymore? Forums are dying because of that bullshit.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Amazon? Patrick, can you tell me about Amazon Snowball?
It just so happens that backing up to the cloud can be much faster.
Okay, tell me more.
Not because Amazon's S3 is so damn fast. It's kind of awesome because it looks like something you would transfer, I don't know, nuclear warheads inside of.
It looks like one of those big gray hard plastic cases that people ship like high-end camera gear in.
Yeah, it's a Pelican case without the aesthetic joy of a Pelican case.
Do you know what my favorite part of it is? The shipping label is a Kindle.
That's pretty awesome.
So it has a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection. I think there's some other connections as well.
50 terabytes of storage.
50 terabytes of storage. There's a whole buttload of hard drives inside that thing. For $200, they will send it to you. You can keep it for a couple of days, fill it with data, ship it back to Oregon, and they'll load it onto S3 for you.
$200 per transfer plus shipping costs, which is going to be a couple $100 right there. Quote, as low as 1/5 the cost of backing up over the internet. I only have 3 problems here. Is one, it's Amazon only. 2, it's Amazon S3, which I can't afford to back up my home. And 3, and when are they going to have this for Crash Plan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need 10 terabytes for, what was it, 10 terabytes?
50.
50.
Terabytes.
I don't need 50. I need like 3 for Crash Plan. You can just send me a little box, the tiny. I'd take the ice cube, not the Snowball.
They had like a 1 terabyte drive for Crash Plan.
I like this conceptually. I like this because it's the sneaker net writ large, right? It is, hey guys, we get that 50 terabytes of data is a lot, and we know that you're probably generating and need a place to put it.
Yeah.
If you want to go ahead and seed the cloud and then send us incremental updates, here's an easy way to do it. And $500, if that's what it costs to ship it and get the box and send it back, is really, really cheap compared to the 3 weeks that would take even over a really big network connection. So I think that's super cool. I can think of about 5 businesses that this enables right now.
Don't speak them out loud.
Only 2 of them
You're
are
an
legal.
entrepreneur now.
Only
You're an
2 of them are
entrepreneur
legal,
now.
Patrick.
in the state of California or the greater U.S.
Patent pending. It's patent pending.
Oh man.
Sony's spinning off the image sensor business. I thought this was interesting. They've made the best image sensors for quite a while now, I think.
Yes, all of my friends that have religiously used a lot of my professional friends who are photographers and videographers, when the A7 came out, the last A7 came out, just dropped all of their gear and bought A7s.
Yeah.
And started taking pictures of themselves lit by like a single match, or the from 40 yards away lit by the screen of their iPhone.
It's like everyone can be Kubrick shooting Barry Lyndon. Do you know the story on that?
Yeah, I do actually. It's
Yeah.
wonderful when like JPL or NASA will loan you lenses that were custom
Yeah, some
built.
point 0.3 f-stop or whatever lenses, yeah.
But yeah, if you don't know the obscure reference,
We talked
cultural
about it on
reference,
Still Untitled.
I'm sorry.
But yeah,
It's an amazing, like the stills from that are just absolutely extraordinary.
he borrowed a lens that was built for NASA for astronomical observations in photography, and shot Barry Lyndon, which is a French period piece,
Yeah.
entirely by candlelight.
Yes.
If you have not seen it, it is not my favorite Kubrick movie. It is one of the most gorgeous by far.
Yeah, it's literally like it's a movie you watch and there was dialogue and certainly a movie happened.
Every frame is a painting.
Yes.
To rip off the awesome web series.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is absolutely gorgeous.
So they provide sensors to Apple for iPhone. They're doing their own. We've talked about Sony's mirrorless cameras. Even their high-end point and shoot, the RX100 series is a delightful. They're lovely cameras.
I should point out I have done some work for Sony's signal video program, so I am considered to be corrupted on this. But
Okay.
Like I mentioned, my friends who buy their cameras. Actually, I buy cameras, but
I bought my camera. That's what I bought.
Yeah,
Norm bought his cameras. He bought that until he switched over to Canon.
I can't decide if this is a genius move or if this is going to sort of like cripple Sony's. Like, who's going to buy? Is Canon going to buy them? Is
it would be amazing if Canon bought their flip sensors.
Are they giving up on the phone market and they want to get sort of the iPhone / Android?
I don't know. I mean, I wonder if Sony's maybe refocusing and drilling down into 3 or 4 things that they can be really good at and own instead of the 30 things that they've done for the last 2 decades.
That would be a really terrifyingly fascinating thing for Sony to do.
I mean,
because it's sort of the antithesis of what Sony's done for the last 30 years.
And it's the opposite of what's happening on the other side of the Pacific. The Silicon Valley tech companies are all diversifying. Apple's building cars, Microsoft's making hardware. Well, maybe Microsoft's not diverse, but the point is, diversification is happening over here. So anyway, we'll see. I think ultimately it's probably a good thing for consumers, assuming they can keep quality up.
Right.
Because the low light capabilities of those sensors are outstanding.
I'm reading an article that basically says, they're splitting it off as a separate company so it can continue to be fast and not be bogged down
By Sony?
by Sony.
That makes sense to me. You always hear stories about what Sony's research division is like,
Right.
and people flying to Japan to pick something up in a case that they don't have a key for, that's handcuffed to their arm, and that somebody on the other side of the ocean will have the key for. The FAA is going to fine drone photo service, or is proposing to fine drone photo service Skypan for flying over New York City and Chicago. Well, the previous record for a fine was, I think, $18,900.
But then the whole Dieselgate thing happened.
What's Dieselgate? Oh, the
Volkswagen
thing.
Yeah, sorry.
It's
I
okay.
didn't mean to say Diesel. Well, the whole Volkswagen things happened, and the potential for like an $18 billion fine. Apparently, they needed to up their game.
So they're proposing a $1.9 million fine for this drone photo service for flying in the restricted airspace over Chicago and especially New York. And the reason the fine is so high, as opposed to the $18,000 or $20,000 fines we've seen in the past, is specifically because when they were asked to stop doing this, they did not stop doing it.
Basically, you didn't listen to us, so we're going to bankrupt you.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a company that's been around for a long time, for what it's worth. They've been
Right.
taking aerial photography for 40 years or something like that, and I think that they feel like they're being made an example of.
Well, one, they are being made an example of. Two, it's funny that you point this, because a few days ago the Motherboard, the Vice webpage, pointed out that the FAA has missed its congressionally mandated deadline to regulate drones.
How many times?
Well, this is the latest one.
Congress isn't really about legislation these days. So, I mean, if Congress isn't
no.
legislating, then why would the FAA make the rules that the Congress tells them to?
Well, yeah, Congress passed the FAA Modernization Act in 2012, and they had till September 30, 2015 to fully regulate commercial drones for use in the United States. So
Nice job, guys. Way to go. Did you see the moth drone?
And they're leveling fines.
Well, I mean, that's good, I suppose.
This just screams massive court battle. No, I have not seen the moth drone.
So,
Does it look like Mothra?
no, that would be much cooler than what this is. Occasionally, there's these bugs called pink bollworms, which eat cotton. They cause massive agricultural damage, and the baby moths are enough of a problem that some novel solutions have been found, including the USDA has raised their own crop of pink bollworms, fed them a diet of red dye, which gives them an unnatural color, and then sterilized them using radiation before they released the mutated red bollworms near the infestation of cotton-eating pink bollworms using, hold on, wait for it, cannons attached to aerial drones. You allow these sterile bollworms to mate with fertile pink bollworms, tricking the latter into a false state of pregnancy, wait for an entire generation of childless red and pink bollworms to die off, and repeat if necessary. This is paraphrased from The Verge. The video of this is pretty outstanding.
Yeah, I'm looking at the video and laughing because this is this Pringles can on the underside.
It looks like a cantenna.
Yeah, I mean, it's very Cantenna-ish, strapped to the underside of a drone wing.
Like not a quadcopter, but a real...
An actual Predator.
Yeah, something that
drone.
usually we don't use shoot missiles with moths in them out.
Yeah, and the lid opens and they explode out.
Yes, that is pretty much the gist of the bit. I thought that this was a fascinating use of drone technology and bastardizations of science. Tweetbot 4 is out. Do you use Tweetbot? Are you a Tweetbot guy?
I've never.
What's your Twitter client of choice? Are you using the website like some sort of Norm Chan-esque Philistine?
No, I was using. I've been using TweetDeck on Windows for a long time.
Okay, that's acceptable. That's
I had
the
a
winner
really
on Windows.
Awesome paid one on OS 10, but it's been so long since I've used an OS 10 machine, I can no longer remember.
Probably,
what it was.
yeah. You're not an OS 10 guy. I know where you stand, Patrick.
Well, I lived in OS 10 and Windows. Mostly OS 10 is my primary machine for like 7 years at Rev 3. but that was several months ago, and apparently
You've
it's
moved
all-
on.
Well, I use my wife's.
It's atrophied. That knowledge is gone. That's always been my move. When people call me and they're like, "Hey, I have a really bad virus infestation on my computer. Can you help?" I'm like, "Oh man, I'm sorry. I use OS 10 now. I don't know how to do that anymore."
That's
It's horrible. I know.
exactly the opposite of what I have to do in
Yeah.
that situation.
I mean, to me,
Oh.
that's worth an extra $500 for my computer in and of itself.
You know what? I'm actually using Tweetbot on my phone.
Wow. So Tweetbot is my favorite Twitter client. It's updated now, and it's out. The new version is universal. It's out on iPad and iPhone for the same
Is it out on
low
Windows?
cost.
Look,
It's not a Windows device.
I use that app
You use
every
Tweetbot?
day, and I've completely forgotten the name.
Wow, that's so it's right there, front of mind for you. There's a new version. It's nice. If you use
Do
an
I have to pay
iPad, you
another-
should get it. You have to pay another $5. It's like 3 dudes
I
that
can
build
live with
this.
that.
I feel like
No,
there was a kerfuffle. People were upset actually.
I had some of the nastiest emails I ever got in the history of Techzilla, where people were just outraged that I paid money for a Twitter client. People get outraged when you pay money for software.
People get outraged about literally everything.
That reminds me,
Are you paying for something right now?
I'm actually going to pay for 99 Update right now, live on this
Wow.
podcast. I'm paying for 2 pieces of software.
So that was one of those things. When I was at Maximum PC, I was always stunned because people would get really, really upset that we would encourage people to use software that you pay for. They'd spend $3,000 or $4,000 building a really insane
Right.
high-end PC, and then be like, $4? That's too much to spend on software. So there we are. I like it a lot. It's really good. They have a stats tab. It tells you how many faves and retweets you've gotten in that day, which is exactly the kind of information I don't need.
But some people do thrive on that.
But it turns out it's nice. It gives you a real sense of accomplishment at the end of a day, a hard social media day.
Can we create some sort of a competitive group now that apparently fantasy sports are corrupt and need to be regulated? Should we create some sort of
Should we talk about that?
between ourselves?
Should we talk about the which one? Oh yeah, you gotta have iOS 9, Patrick.
Okay, I got to back up my phone. I'm trying to pay money and I can't do it.
Sorry, iOS 9 only.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah, it doesn't support the hard press or whatever the new thing is yet, because he didn't believe in putting that feature in before he had actually used it on the real hardware,
That seems pretty reasonable.
which is, I think, the right way to do these things. But yeah, the last thing is Reddit launched Upvoted this week, which is a news site sourced by Reddit, but without any actual Reddit in it. So no comments, no access to the raw, unfiltered internet that Reddit represents. Just news that people on Reddit like enough to upvote to the homepage of appropriate categories.
I can't decide if that's like Dig 3.0 or if I can't decide if that's a smart way for them to make money or just some absurd Dadaist experiment by the new CEO.
I thought it was a pretty good way for them to make money, because if you've ever tried to make money on user generated content, which Reddit essentially is,
Yes. It generally doesn't work.
it's
No, I'm laughing because somebody told me 1,000 years ago when I was still working at Tech TV how they were this new show had been greenlighted and it was all going to be user generated content, and I was like, okay, let me know how that goes. And they had 2.5 shows.
just nothing but dicks all the way down.
Unfortunately, they would not use any of those videos, but they literally had like 2.5 weeks worth of shows, and suddenly realized that they wouldn't even be able to finish the flight of episodes that they were trying to do for the initial release, and it was just kind of like, yeah, making television's hard, and then back then it was much harder than it is now.
Yeah. So this is it's I hadn't really looked at this yet, and I'm looking at it now. It's kind of weird. It's original content. There's a bunch of there's links to Reddit where you can see how many upvotes stuff has.
Mm-hmm.
You can jump into the comment thread on Reddit, but it takes you off of the upvoted site.
That seems smart. Does it give you a big giant warning page?
I don't know.
Warning, you are now about to leave upvoted for the terrible, emotional, traumatic environment that is Reddit.
Welcome to
Reddit.
some raw dog internet over here. I don't know. I mean, it's a discuss on Reddit. Here we go. Nope, it doesn't warn me. It just takes me to the r/upvoted subreddit where there's a thread about it and one comment, which is kind of interesting.
So basically, we both agree it's a way for them to generate income that they desperately need for Reddit's continuing survival
Yes.
in a way that does not upset, traumatize, or just period irritate the Reddit community.
Or the people who are looking at the site. I think the idea, it seems to me the idea is let's distill Reddit down to its essence without
Let's take the good
stuff without all of the pun threads and the other stuff. That's not so good. Huh.
Upvoted.com is not available.
It's not working right now. That'll do it for news right now.
It's back.
I'm gonna take a quick minute and thank our corporate sponsors. SoftLayer delivers clouds built for flexibility. Your business applications and computational workloads are unique, so you deserve cloud resources that meet your specific needs. SoftLayer is one of the only cloud providers that provisions dedicated servers and virtual servers, otherwise known as a public cloud, from a single seamless platform. It's all on demand, it's all connected to the same open API, and it's all connected to a global private network, allowing you to scale your workloads up and down quickly and have ample space for your storage-intensive tasks. SoftLayer is an IBM company. IBM even uses SoftLayer as its cloud infrastructure foundation for all IBM cloud products and services. And all of our listeners have the opportunity to get $500 of cloud infrastructure today by visiting softlayer.com/podcast. You can order bare metal servers, dedicated servers, virtual servers, storage, networking, and security services from your choice of data centers around the world. SoftLayer has 24 data centers around the world, and all of those servers and services are connected to SoftLayer's unique network of networks, which separates public, private, and management traffic, ensuring that traffic to and from your cloud infrastructure travels more efficiently. Visit softlayer.com/podcast to get started with $500 off of servers, storage, network, and security on a cloud built for flexibility from SoftLayer. Offer valid for new customers only for up to $500 off the first order for the first billing cycle of servers and services with any of SoftLayer's data centers around the world. Only valid on monthly servers and services. For more information on this offer, please visit softlayer.com/podcast. And we're back!
I'm on the SoftLayer webpage.
It was a little, I hit the wrong music there.
It was awesome.
I
I felt so soothed. I want to feel like that all the time. So I'm going to get myself a server.
I usually do this one. That's my normal SoftLayer music. But I hit X instead of C.
You should use that one. You should use X instead of C every time.
Hey guys, it's time for sleepy time with Will and Patrick. We're going to slow this podcast down a minute and talk about, instead of technology news and events, the things that we've been testing. Patrick, what have you been testing today?
Wow.
Did you bring stuff?
Actually, I did bring stuff.
I'm going to stop the music before one of us falls asleep.
But it's so soothing. Little happy trees.
That's our mattress music. That's mattress ad music there. We don't use that music for anything but mattress. You have laser cut stuff.
I have laser cut stuff. Well, that
Did
actually.
you get a cutter?
No. Actually, I have access to a cutter at the Hack Warehouse,
it's the
Hack
best
5
friend.
Warehouse.
Oh.
Well, this is really cool. So there's this group of guys. So this is the sort of shipping stand for. This is the Invasion, which is actually a Raspberry Pi enclosure from the crew over at C4 Labs.
Oh, cool.
And they just started selling these on Amazon and on their website. So I'm going to put a Raspberry Pi 2 in this.
Cool.
And what I really like, so this is kind of a fancy
I like the
one.
frame for it. It's really neat.
Yeah. Well, that's like the actual case itself is pretty slick. It's got this sort of, if you want it to be on your desk or somewhere where it's not going to look like a Raspberry Pi. But they also have those zebra cases, which are pretty awesome. And if I rip this open, because I have a couple of these on Raspberry Pis, because I tend to throw my Raspberry Pi in a backpack when I'm moving from place to place, which turns
As
out
one does.
is a great way to knock surface mount components off of a Raspberry Pi. So they have these. It's a mixture of, I want to say, plexiglass, and they started doing
Acrylic, probably, yeah.
Yeah, acrylic, and they started doing wood that goes underneath the acrylic, or bamboo, or a number of other really attractive things, and it makes it look really nice.
Cool.
And I like to have some nice things in my life because I have children, and we can't have nice things in the house.
I got a new iPhone 6 Plus because I have children.
Did they break it?
One, yes.
As one does.
And we have now bought cases for all the remaining iPhones in our houses.
I have been running. Stop.
Parking meter. Do you need me to put money in your Duber?
It's all good.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. Or do you have it already set up?
Yeah, if you give me the number. If you give me, we can do this live.
Well, this is awesome. Because I took a picture of the number just so I could test it out because I
Yep.
never bothered to use it.
Oh, it's fabulous. It costs 27 cents now. They dropped it. It used to be 45, which was a ripoff. We're talking about pay by phone. It's something I use literally every day. You put the number that's on a meter in San Francisco into your app. It's like a 7 or 8 digit number
Yeah.
usually.
Well, they put a cap. You can only put like 2 hours of time in the meter unless you
Yep.
dial in 3300
Okay. Yep.
9370.
9370.
And the alternate number is 7.
Oh, okay. So you're on
No.
Townsend.
33009370. And yes, I am on Townsend.
Hold on, I got to do it again because I backed up. 3300. This is great radio again. This is a problem with. Just don't move to San Francisco. If you're thinking about coming here, we're full. Don't come.
And neither one of us even lives in San Francisco.
No.
3300.
Yeah, got those two. Yep, got that one.
9370.
70.
And then I made a Powerball drawing joke.
Oh, I was like, wait, I don't have the 7 there. If I make a mistake, it's going to be like a $60 ticket. We don't want to do that.
That would be bad.
So yeah, the that's really neat. Have you guys seen the Glowforge? Have you talked to those guys?
Which ones?
Glowforge?
No.
They are doing a crowdfunded laser cutter. You would like them because they're doing a laser cutter. Unlike you've used Epilogues and Trotex and
Yes.
Chinese lasers and the nightmare that is their software.
There's literally like a 6 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot orange box.
Yeah.
Like 6 feet to the right of my desk at the Hack Warehouse.
So they've built
wow.
they've built a desktop laser.
It looks like a food sealer.
It does look like a huge food sealer. It's like 11 by 23. Mm-hmm. They do have one with a pass-through that's a little bit more expensive. But basically, we were up there. We were up in Seattle this week. We stopped by to see how they were doing and kind of check in with them and answer questions that you guys had for us after we did the first video with the Glowforge. It's $2,000.
Yeah.
And
Which is
their
nothing.
software is cloud-based, and which I know people freak out about, including you. But the reason it's cloud-based is because they're doing image processing stuff. Instead of lining it up with a laser and a little level thing, it takes a picture of the bed when you close the lid.
Right.
And then you just drag the thing that you want to cut onto the picture of the material that's in the laser cutter so that you don't whiff and mess up material. Like it all just kind of works. And they showed us some of their new software tricks. Like because it uses a camera, you can take a Sharpie,
Right.
draw on the thing that you want to cut out or etch,
And then we'll cut it out.
and it'll just trace the Sharpie. It runs over the whole Sharpie and burns the Sharpie away if you're etching or cutting.
I would very much like to see a demo of this because it
Yeah.
sounds so extraordinarily.
So I went up and saw them 4 or 5 months ago
Right.
when they had a hardware prototype but were still working on software, and did like the cutting demo and was like, this is amazing. I've used enough lasers to know that software, like a normal laser arbitrarily doesn't work
Right.
because you like forgot and made the line thickness 0.1 instead of 0 and it's
Right.
the wrong color in AutoCAD, or maybe it's on a layer that has the wrong properties or
all of the
whatever.
above.
Yeah, and like troubleshooting that stuff requires going backwards and just doing it over and over and over again. Their stuff so far, I mean, again, we've only seen it in controlled circumstances, but Norm actually went through the whole process when he was doing this in their in-house demos. It's pretty amazing. And they have, I know people are worried about buying something from a new
Sure.
company that requires internet to work. So they are going to release the firmware as open source so people can hack it and you know, build their own local servers or
That's pretty
whatever
awesome.
for it.
I mean,
It's really cool.
Yeah. No. That's cool.
$2,000.
That's
It's gonna-
awesome.
Yeah, you should talk to him. I'll do an introduction after.
I would
we-
like that
after
very
we-
much. Look at this. They're
Yeah.
paper cutting, leather cutting.
So yeah, they're
Plywood cutting?
they're doing a bunch of neat stuff with content too. So they've hired artists to build really
That's
cool
so
stuff.
smart. Those are gorgeous.
And they're going to make a lot of that available to people, I think. So anyway, yeah, you should check it out. Glowforge.com.
Sell more blood. Buy more 3D printing things.
It's a laser cut. They
printing
call it a
thing.
3D laser printer,
Yeah,
which is
it's
dumb, but it's a
confusing.
laser cutter.
But that's oh wow, the cardboard globe.
Yeah, so you know how they did that? You'll like this.
Layer after layer after layer.
Layer after layer after layer, but they took a 3D model into Fusion 360, sliced it,
Oh, wow.
and then used each of those, sent those layers out as SVGs to be cut, and there you have it. That was all there was to it.
That's freaking awesome.
Really smart, really cool.
I can't believe how I just sorry. Like if you've never worked with a laser, cutter, it's usually a box. It usually requires rooftop ventilation, or you basically can hear the brain cells dying in your skull as
Yeah.
whatever it is being vaporized. And it sounds, it sounds like somebody's doing. Yeah, it's kind of a jet, and there's smoke, and it's.
You
all
have
the
to wear
things-
ear protection if you're in a small room with it. It's
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
Adams is really loud. At least
and to see one that's so small and appliance like
it's still loud. I mean, it still has a fan. If you have the sealed exhaust thing on the bottom, the filter, we haven't actually seen the sealed exhaust thing working. The one that they have rigged up for trade shows and demos and stuff right now is a little more limited.
Right.
But it's pretty impressive.
That's really cool.
And it's all sealed optics and stuff, so that theoretically it can't get dirty and need to be hosed clean or whatever.
That would be pretty awesome
Yeah.
because I don't know. I've been doing, like I mentioned, like I basically fabricated a tool to pull the gear off the camshaft in this giant diesel engine in my truck, and I was basically like using my 70-year-old drill press I got for like $100 off Craigslist, and there's moments where like that, and I'm dealing with like tiny shards of metal and mayhem, and that seems, at least I know if I don't start swallowing this stuff, like I'm not going to be vaporizing brain cells.
Yeah, probably.
But
Yeah.
this is like, I don't know, it's lasers, man.
Lasers are cool, man. They put the laser on the carriage. It rides with it, so there's no alignment and stuff like that. It's super smart. We'll have a video up soon. Norm, I think that's next week sometime. I can't
Sorry,
remember.
I'm just not having to align it is just like so nice.
I mean, it's a new company. It's untested.
Right.
We haven't seen final hardware, but the people that we've talked to are super smart, and I've seen enough of this kind of stuff in the past. Like I've seen enough 3D printers to know to have a good feeling about where they are, what they see as their challenges, and to know have a pretty good idea of how it's going to go for them.
So basically, they smell like they have a clue.
They answered questions. They answered the right questions the right way.
That's a good.
I mean, that's how we judge people when we're deciding whether we're going to cover something or not.
No, it's interesting because there's this entire segment of PR now that is built up around Indiegogo and Kickstarter projects, and I'm kind of wondering how these programs are being paid for. Whether they're doing
It's $5,000 flat is the usual, is my understanding.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money for something that you don't usually get very much out of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in some cases, I think they've done really amazing jobs. But,
yeah.
But it's funny. It's like, we'd really love you to take a look at this product, and like buried in paragraph 6, it's like a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo project, and no, they don't have demos, and no, you can't test it, and no, everything we know about it is in this 3D rendering that you can see on the Kickstarter website. It's like
We don't cover a lot of Kickstarters because the challenge with them is that unless you have an established track record,
right,
the odds of you messing that up and I mean, even when you have something like Pebble where they had a massive amount of money and super smart people, they still had massive problems delivering that stuff. So yeah. That's why we don't cover a lot of Kickstarters here.
That seems perfectly reasonable to me.
I got an iPhone 6 Plus because my daughter hucked my wife's phone onto the floor and exploded the screen.
Tantrum or mistake?
Just mistake. 2-year-old.
Yeah, I know. But 2-year-olds can go with like malicious mayhem.
This wasn't malicious mayhem. Okay. She just dropped it. And, she said, "Mom, I have your phone for you." Oops.
Sorry.
It all ended okay. So the thing that struck me,
you got
I got a new phone. Yeah. I wasn't that upset. It turns out I was like, "Oh man, honey, that really sucks. You want my old 6 Plus?" Yeah, sure.
You didn't tell her about the damage replacement $79 fee, right?
No, I didn't get Apple Care for her phone because she's been really good about not destroying phones over the last 10 years.
Well, that's convenient.
And
you can have my phone, dear.
Yeah, here you go, sweetheart. I'll fix you're fixed right now. No problem. Don't worry, I'll go to the Apple store and deal with this. It's not that good. I mean, the Force Touch stuff is really, really neat. Like, there's something amazing
for all 4 of the apps that can use it.
Well, it turns out that the apps that can use it are pretty good. Like the app that I use to scan receipts for expense reports, it supports it, and I can do this. I can just press it. Oop, I missed. And it gives me scan with camera. And
it's a right click.
It's a deep link more than a right click, right? Like a right click. A lot of times in Windows, right clicks are for doing things to the application or whatever. It's literally
as administrator.
Yeah, exactly. For this, it's more. Hey, dive straight into most commonly used tasks.
Right.
It's like the shortcut menu that most applications have. It is the first thing you see.
Everybody I know who's touched it has been incredibly enthusiastic about that, but they've been like orders of magnitude more enthusiastic about the speed of the.
It's crazy fast.
Of the.
I think that's actually a negative.
Really? Because you don't have that pause that allows you to look at your.
I can't see my notifications. I miss them all the time. I've had to change. I've had to change from using the home button to turn on the phone to hitting the side button, which is much less convenient. I wish that you could slow it back down, actually.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe they'll add that in a
Like
later version.
Passbook and all that stuff. Like when I had my airplane, I flew to Seattle this weekend. When I had my, are you calling an Uber?
No, I'm just
Okay.
I'm just actually literally trying to get one thing to force touch.
Oh, just go to the home screen and
over again.
pick any Apple app.
I'm not pushing hard enough.
You got to
that's
push
so
pretty hard.
weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's very uncomfortable for somebody who's broken as many screens.
Yeah, you
as I
feel
have.
like you're going to smash right through it, but it's fine.
That's so cool.
And when you
Fortunately-
force touch on something that doesn't do it, it gives you a I'm sad bump.
Yeah, it gives you sort of a triple haptic vibration with a screen blurring.
The Touch ID being so fast. Yeah, I'm already down to 50%
I'm
now.
like I'm sitting here like your phone like is vibrating and doing this little dance, and I'm like, I should stop this because you have better things to use your battery for.
It turns out I can plug it in if I need to. It'll be fine.
I got a really nice 15,000 milliamp battery over here somewhere.
I just have like a 4,000. You know, this will drain almost a 4,000 milliamp battery now, like between running and
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hence,
I know the 16,000 one. I don't want to carry that thing. Anyway, the Force Touch stuff is really nice. The Touch ID sensor is being too fast is actually kind of a problem, I think. The overall OS and scaler is much, much faster.
Mm-hmm.
So you're using a 6, so you didn't have to deal with that because it was a straight by 4 up and down. Because it's scaling up and then shrinking back down, there was a fair amount of lag on the 6 Plus, and that's all gone now. It's all
that's cool.
crazy fast. The battery life is the notable disappointment. Like I'm needing to plug it. Like last night, previously I never got below 20% with the 6 Plus.
See, I run my battery down all the time. I
Really?
don't know if that's because I'm constantly pinging towers because of where the office I work out of is, or if it's something else I'm doing. So I'm in the process of like checking out all the different pieces of software out there that will allow me to analyze what's sucking down the battery life of my phone.
You know, iOS 9 has a whole tool
Yeah.
that tells you how much is in the background and how much.
You know, the real reason I built my new PC was so I'd finally have an SSD large enough to back up my entire 128 gigabyte iPhone.
Oh, yeah. So see, you have it even tells you like the new one even tells you how much is a screen time and how much is background time.
Oh, wow.
Which is super useful over a period of like 5-7 days, whatever
It's
it is.
amazing how much some apps suck down in the background.
Yeah, just turn off Facebook background updating. That should never be turned on.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. Anyway, anything else you've been testing you want to talk about?
I've actually been playing around with my usual giant pile of headphones and re-rendering a bunch of audio.
Ooh.
I'm going to meet with the guys from JDS Labs tomorrow.
Okay.
Who do if you've one of the first I used a lot of headroom amps, and then I built what they call a Chumoy amp, which is like an Altoids tin size amp. And JDS Labs has been selling the O2, which was an open source design developed by for a headphone amplifier. Developed by this guy called like NW Northwest Audio Guy, I think is his sort of handle.
So he's a HeadFi user, I assume.
Yeah, and he kind of like they sort of group. He did the design, and they came up with this whole plan in PCB and this very set design, and they started doing those. And they have this kind of legend in the headphone community. And the JDS Labs crew have just come out with their first design, which I'm hopefully going to get my ears on tomorrow, called the Element, which is sort of a headphone amp and DAC with a big volume knob on it.
Oh, cool.
Which is for me is
That's
really,
perfect,
really
yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like usually when I built amps in the past, I ended up not using them because I built an amp and then needed a DAC, and then I all of a sudden had way more wires and stuff on my desk than I really wanted. Even though having the vacuum tube on the top was kind of cool.
Right.
That's interesting. What's your like? Where are you at on sweet spot for headphones right now? Like I've had my classic Sennheiser HD 580s for the better part of 15 years. I like them a lot, it turns out.
You know, sort of my two favorite entry level headphones right now are Grado SR60s.
Okay, which are how much? Like
it's like $70.
Oh, awesome!
Right? And Grado started out making cartridges, and then
like
started making headphones.
record cartridges.
Yeah, needles.
Yeah,
you know, the things that hold the needles on the tone arm. And then about I want to say 25 years ago now started making headphones, and the 60s were this incredibly affordable, and still are this incredibly affordable sort of introduction to seriously good quality headphones. Now, there's a lot more high quality headphones now, and they're easier to get thanks to Amazon and the rest. But the Grados are kind of legendary because they're super accurate, and they have this tremendous soundstage. They really feel like you are in the space where the recording was made, which is a big deal. Sony MDR 7506s, which Wirecutter picked as
we use those as our good headphones in the office.
They are a classic, like the Sony MDR V6s, and later on the 7506s are kind of something I saw a lot in recording studios in New York City and in broadcast environments. We use them up at the Hack House. That is a unbelievably fantastic headphone for $75.
Yeah,
that's the Wirecutter's pick for like the best headphone.
And they're over ear, right? Or on ear?
They are over ear.
Over ear. Okay.
They are fairly comfortable for extended listening. They're not the most aesthetic headphone, but they are. I have a pair of MDR V6s that are 20 years old, and outside of having to replace the ear pads and find a replacement screw, like they are still going strong.
That's the thing I love about these guys. I've replaced the pad over the top of the head. I've replaced the earmuffs. I've replaced the wires.
Right.
Everything else still, I stepped on them one time, had to glue the side back together. It's bad times, good stuff. Patrick Norton, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me, man.
Where can people find you?
Techthing.com, TEKTHING.com, or This Week in Computer Hardware, or Tested. I have another column coming
Another
out
column
of Tested.
soon, yeah.
A long delayed column, oddly enough, on listening.
Interesting.
To audio.
Norm and I and Joey went up to Seattle last week. We have a bunch of good video there. We went and saw Lego.
Sweet.
We went to Valve and saw some Vive demos that we hadn't seen before.
Or did you get to shoot anything of the Vive demos you can actually share with the community?
Yeah, Norm got to take a picture of me wearing a Vive headset. So it's the collection is complete now. There's a picture of me looking doofy, wearing every VR headset made, except for Magic Leap. If you guys are listening, we would love to talk to you. That'll do it for us. Yeah, you got it. That's it. You got to look dumber than that. It's important.
Sorry.
And the Glowforge video, all those will come up, I think, in the next few days.
It's going to be a good week on Tested.com.
And Norm has more hands-ons from the Microsoft stuff, I think, still to come. Or actually, it's on the site now. It's not still to come.
Yay!
You can go see that. He did a lovely job. He walked through the hardware that they were letting people touch, the hands-ons, kind of recapped the event if you didn't want to watch the whole 5-hour Microsoft press conference, whatever it was. And so on and so forth.
So where should people, is there a place where people can sort of submit their email address or a Facebook page for people that want to follow your transition into the next evolution of your life?
Wow, thank you for asking, Patrick. You can go to Twitter /Will Smith. That's me. Or there's a Medium post that has a link to my Tiny Letter, which I think is just tinyletter.com/Will-Smith.
Will-Smith.
Will-Smith. You can sign up for that. I won't spam you. I'm just going to use it to say, hey, here's my new thing. And then probably like a week later, I'll be like, hey, in case you missed the first email, here's my new thing. We should have some stuff to talk about at the end of the year.
Are you excited?
Terrified, excited. These are all the same emotion now.
It's just
excited.
Like parenting, but with less likelihood of incarceration.
Yeah, it's like the thing I hadn't expected is I've had to get good at business stuff in a way that as a journalist I never have had to really bother with because there's always people that do that stuff for you. The story I told somebody I was talking to the other day is that when I launched Tested, I came over to Whiskey Media and started working there about a month and a half before Norm started. And basically I had culture shock on the first day because I got there and they're like, oh, we don't have a desk or a chair for you, but here's the corporate card. Let's go to IKEA and we'll get a couple of desks. Get what you need. And then the whole first day was basically driving from Sausalito to Emeryville, buying five desks.
This is a very classic 90s startup kind of vibe.
This was in 2010.
Well, I know, but it's funny, but there was this point, right, when I moved out here in 98 where the Home Depot in Deadland, south of town, was Colma. There's more dead people in Colma than there are. No, you live in...
I live in Pacifica, but it's one town over.
It's different. One town, a hill, and a lot less dead people. Yeah. But there's the Home Depot in Colma ran 24 hours a day. And you would roll in there at 2 in the morning because I'm the kind of guy that hits a Home Depot at 2 in the morning.
Who wouldn't?
And there would be 3 or 4 people with the big orange cart at the Home Depot with stacks of foam core doors or hollow core doors and freaking
cinder blocks.
No, not even cinder blocks. Whatever I have no brain today. Apparently, I was too close to the laser
Yeah,
cutter.
you should watch out. Quit huffing the acrylic fumes, man.
The things.
Use the words that describe. Let's break this down XKCD style. Use only the 1,000 most commonly used words. It's the thing that does the thing.
Stand off floor woodworking.
Oh, sawhorses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can see the Burrow brand sawhorse
Yeah.
label and the sawhorse. Wow, it's kind of good to know that my brain is atrophying faster than my mother's.
That's
She'll
what
be so
happens when you
excited.
get old. So
But you would literally see like a 23-year-old with two carts with like 20 doors on each cart and a stack of sawhorses because they were taking that back to their incredibly overpriced Class A office space
Yeah.
in San Francisco to set up the desks for the startup.
Well, that and there'd be another guy following with sheets of melamine, which is the stuff you make impromptu showers out of, or if you're a serial killer, like a kill room, I guess. And
They're making one about the Chicago Killer with Johnny Depp, apparently.
I don't want to watch that.
It's going to be awesome.
But you use melamine and you tack it on the walls, and it makes awesome whiteboards.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, did you not know that? I can't believe I taught you something about this.
You've taught me a lot of things about a lot of things.
You can hang the melamine on the wall and whiteboard on it, and then you wipe it off just like a whiteboard.
Says the man who doesn't want to watch the serial killer movie
It
because
costs $5 a sheet
Which is
versus
a
like
lot less than a
$180 for a big giant whiteboard.
and you can just throw it away without
Yeah.
fear after you've finished your kill for the week.
Yeah, exactly. If you get splatter on it, they just wipe right off with alcohol. Same
How
with
convenient is that?
yeah. Yeah, so we had to buy desks. We had to build desks the first day. I got there was there was no phone number. There's no office phone. I haven't had an
Right.
office phone in 5 years, which turns out a real blessing.
For reasons we were discussing before the show.
Yeah, no. It turns out I just my voicemail just says, "Hey, don't leave a message. Send an email instead," and that works. But it was a real culture shock, and now I'm having the whole rest of that because now I have to figure out how to do payroll and taxes and incorporation and all that. We know about that stuff.
More than I really wanted to.
Turns out, but the
Business licensing.
yeah.
Wait.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Wait, I'm working at a kitchen table, but I need zoning approval to work on my kitchen table so I can get a business license so I can give you a 1% cut of everything I make so you can approve that I'm not disposing of toxic waste in my living room. Got it. Thanks.
Your living room would make an amazing, super fun site. And on that note, I'm going to call this show. Today's outro is brought to you by Hodgepodge. Thanks for submitting. If you guys want to submit some more outros from dumb stuff that Patrick, Norm, anyone else that's been on the show has said, you can find out how by Googling raw outro song file, going to the forum thread, downloading the template file, and then injecting the horrible things that we've said on top of the music at the appropriate spot. Thanks, Hodgepodge, for today's outro. Again, it's raw outro song file. And thanks to our sponsors, SoftLayer and Autodesk, for today's show. We'll see you guys next week. Woohoo! Bye. Hi there, I didn't see you. If I don't want to see any more of your 6-inch dick pics, I just mute them and then they go away.